When beginners think about Buddhism, the one thing they probably think about most often than anything else is meditation. But meditation is actually just one part of a complete Buddhist practice. In Buddhism, we have something called the Threefold Training, and this is part of the Noble Eightfold Path. So when we look at the Noble Eightfold Path, which is the path the Buddha gave us, the instructions, if you will, that leads us towards awakening, becoming enlightened, and realizing our natural state of nirvana, he grouped those into three different parts. There's a wisdom category, there's a morality or conduct category, and there's also a meditation category. So this makes up the threefold training in Buddhism. And it's very important because, again, when we think about meditation, we sometimes think that is the core of Buddhist practice, but it's actually not. So remember this Eightfold Path, the Threefold Training, they all work together with each other. So with meditation, that's actually based upon morality or conduct category. You can't have meditation without that. And the wisdom category, you can't have that without meditation. So they all work in conjunction with each other. It makes it a whole Buddhist practice instead of a lopsided Buddhist practice. For example, wheel on your car has to be perfectly balanced. Even though it looks round, it's not actually balanced in the right way. So they have to balance it out to make it a smooth ride as you drive down the road. In the same way, you may be a little bit lopsided, in other words, a little bit better in some other aspects of the Eightfold Path than the other ones. So you have to balance them all together to have that perfectly round wheel, which is what we're trying to do. Now, the reason we have this threefold training, because the Buddha is trying to help us do, is to essentially control, to stop what we call outflows inside Buddhism. So outflows is what we're essentially creating these karma in our lives. We're creating these karmic actions, typically unwholesome actions, and that's binding us, trapping us. We're clinging, grasping into this cycle of rebirth. We're stuck. We're stuck because of these outflows. It's this we're grasping and clinging and craving. And so this threefold training is helping us essentially stop outflows. So when you look at the Buddha or his enlightened followers, they who become enlightened beings and realize nirvana, they are no longer creating the karma like you and me do. We are everyday people, laypersons, we're creating karma with outflows. In other words, we are binding ourselves, trapping ourselves in a cycle of rebirth. They still are creating karma, but it's karma without outflows. So it's this karma of enlightened beings where they are not being trapped in a cycle of rebirth. And they've done that through, if you want to think about it this way, the threefold training. So when we talk about this threefold training, I'm going to talk, of course, in this video just about the meditation component of it, but it's, again, really important to note that you can't just meditate and hope to become an enlightened being. You have to practice the threefold training because they're all connected to each other. So that's a really key part, and that's why you see with the Buddhist traditions, they all practice the threefold training in many different ways. So they may have certain ceremonies, rituals, practices, etc. that help you practice the threefold training so you have this perfectly round practice. And that's the beautiful part about Buddhism. You got all these different traditions and different ways that they're practicing the threefold training. So for example, you may have some traditions where you may not even find sitting meditation like I'm talking today, but maybe they're doing a chanting version. And so this is very popular as well, but that's also a form of meditative concentration. So it's different ways to accomplish essentially the same goal we're trying to do here. Now, with sitting meditation, this is probably the thing, again, you probably are thinking about most often with Buddhism, but again, it's not something that was always practiced by Buddhists, especially laypersons. So this is really, if you want to think about it, a modern invention that laypersons are routinely meditating. If we kind of think back in time, laypersons do not have a lot of free time on their hands to, I'm going to go, sit and do sitting meditation for an hour. They didn't have the time for that. Now, with our modern lifestyles, we typically have more time to do things like this, which is great. We're kind of diving in or putting our toe, into the water of what the monastics have been able to do. And so this is great for us to engage with our Buddhist practice. So doing sitting meditation, fantastic way to actually kind of work towards this complete Buddhist practice, this threefold training. Because what we're trying to accomplish with this meditation portion, if you want to think about it this way, it's called Samadhi. And so it's basically concentration is probably a loose or direct translation for it. That's what we want to do. Because if you look at, like, again, the Buddha or his enlightened followers, I mentioned that they are no longer creating karma with outflows, right? And outflows is kind of like this problem because it's this karmic action, it's intentional karma we're doing, typically unwholesome. And so that's based upon greed, anger, delusion, what we call it, three fires or three poisons inside Buddhism, because we're constantly doing this and we don't know any better. And so we don't have control over any of this. And so our wheel is not perfectly round, it's all over the place, and it's just a very bumpy ride, dukkha. And so when we have Samadhi, this concentration, like the Buddha and his enlightened followers, they're inside that mindset, if you want to think about it this way, where nothing's affecting them. And because nothing's affecting them, like it affects you and me, they are no longer having these outflows that are trapping them. Because right now, we are very much affected in many, many different ways, depending on, of course, we're all different personalities and people, different ways, because your wheel could be maybe rounder than mine. Other people could be a lot less. It just depends, right? In different ways. And because of that, we can be kind of knocked off course very, very easily or subtly. But based upon that, we're creating these karmic actions, keeping us trapped in a cycle of rebirth. So when you have this concentration like they do, nothing's affecting you, like what someone says to you or what you feel or think. That's going away because now the delusion, the ignorance is gone, part of the three fires and three poisons. That's gone because now you've seen the truth. You understand what's actually going on. And so you can't be affected that way. Karma without outflows. Samadhi. You are no longer affected. Just imagine that. Just like if there's like a hurricane coming through, and I'm sure you've all seen where some trees have been knocked over, especially the ones with not firm roots inside the ground, but you got like this one tree. It's like, okay, I'll bend, into this wind, but you're not taking me from this ground, because my roots are nice and deep. I can be swayed by you, but I'm not going to react to that particular wind in a way that I'm going to be uprooted. So we are essentially creating these roots in a very wholesome way, so we are not affected. Samadhi. We are not affected by things around us. So when we're talking about sitting meditation, it's very, very much, you look at pictures or books, or there's tons about sitting meditation. So I'm not going to give you the very granular detail about all of this. It's just going to be very, very high level. You need to really find a Buddhist tradition, especially a teacher, a monastic, to help you through this. And if you're not near a particular temple, yeah, there's definitely videos out there, there's books, there's some ways to actually do it. But let's say you have a vacation coming up, it might be very beneficial to actually go and go to a temple and when they're open and actually have an in-person meditation session. They usually have this for laypersons. That's a great way to actually do it, because you want to make sure you're doing things right, not just how you interpret it, perhaps based upon a book or a video. You're not seeing yourself, you're not exactly a impartial person. So you need that impartial teacher to really make sure that you're practicing in the right way. Also, practicing in a way that's applicable to your particular tradition. So we're going to just go through a few basic things. If you have a medical condition or anything else like that, that's also something to factor in. That's not being factored into this video. You should never feel in any way where you're going to be injured, hurt, discomfort in a very bad way, or getting ill or anything from meditation. That's not the purpose of meditation. Meditation is to increase your awareness, to the control of the mind, the body, the breath. This is what we're trying to do inside meditation, because remember how the threefold training works. The meditation's bound to our morality conduct, but it's also bound to wisdom. We want to gain wisdom out of this. We want to break free from creating these karmic actions, trapping us in a cycle of rebirth. So you don't want to be hurting yourself during meditation or getting worse, physically, medically from it. If you look at the Buddha's life, he realized that. That's why we have the middle path, as it's called inside Buddhism. You're not going to the extremes. You shouldn't be hurting yourself. So we're talking about studying meditation, right? And obviously you've seen it where people have a meditation cushion and a meditation mat. Yes, I'm going to talk about that today, but a key point is if you don't have that, that's okay as well too. So let's go back. Let's say you can't actually sit on a meditation cushion or mat. Can you do a chair? Absolutely you can. I've seen it plenty of times. That's perfectly okay as well. Remember, it's not so much about the special positions that you're sitting in. It's about getting to that end goal. And there's many ways to do that. So if you need to sit on a chair, sit on a chair. Now, one key component of that, as we talk about position and everything going forward, you don't want to be like resting to the back of the chair, right? You want to do this through your own body. Now, of course, if there's medical conditions or anything related to your body, you may have to do that. So it's not all like 100% black and white here, but you want to, as much as possible, do things to make sure that your mind, body, and breath are in conjunction with sitting meditation. Okay, so when we're talking about sitting meditation, we're basically trying to, if you will, tame, control the mind, right? But we have to do a few things first to make sure we're right in the right position, the right mindset, right? Everything for that particular practice that we're going to do. So you should have somewhere that you can meditate. That could be a spare room. It could be when everybody goes to sleep before you wake up, you just bring stuff out so you can actually practice in peace. You don't want to do it where it's noisy, you can be distracted, where it's too humid or too hot or too cold. You want to do it where it's in a comfortable environment. Now, the ultimate goal, as you continue practicing, you can meditate in a lot of different environments, like Samadhi. Well, advanced practitioners, it doesn't matter if it's on a busy street or if it's somewhere else, they are able to have that Samadhi no matter what conditions they're in. But we're just starting out. Again, think about it this way. You're going to the gym, you've never worked out before in your life, you're going to be starting with light weights, right? You're not going to be doing like that bodybuilder with a 400-pound weights, right? You can probably get there, or maybe to a certain degree, but you're not just going to go straight there and do it right away. You're not at that level yet. You might be doing light weights or variations of it for a little bit, but you need to do this in a way that's very structured, in a way that you don't hurt yourself and you're making steady progress. Now, will it take time? Yes. So don't expect, well, I'm going to meditate for 20 hours my first day and I'm going to be enlightened by tomorrow. No, that's not going to happen. It could take years or even never in your current lifetime. So don't think about it where this is going to be a zero-sum game, and no matter the harder you meditate, the quicker this is going to be. This is about a structured schedule pace that you're actually doing, a consistent pace. So find a place that you can actually meditate, and if you have a meditation cushion and mat, that's great. If you just got like a couch, or you have like maybe a blanket you can put on the ground or something like that, great. You want to make sure that you're not uncomfortable doing this, because as we're starting off in the gym, as my example goes, you have to help yourself get into this. We're not advanced practitioners at this particular point. We need to ease ourselves into it. So if you have a meditation cushion mat, great. Invest in a good quality one as well. My one's lasts me for over 20 years now, so that a good quality one can be a little bit more expensive. You don't have to break the bank with it. I'm not saying get the most expensive one out there, but if you get a good quality one, then yeah, it can last you for quite some time, but it's not a requirement. You don't have to get a quote unquote authentic Buddhist meditation mat and cushion. There's other things you can do to accomplish the same goals. So find a room, find a place that's comfortable, quiet, so you can actually start your meditation. If you got an altar in front of you, perfect. A little statue of the Buddha, maybe some incense or a candle, great. This is all part of your Buddhist practice, which I've talked about in another video and also my article. So you can encompass it inside there. I'm not going to go into all of that in this video, but yeah, meditation is part of your Buddhist practice. Now, so as we're sitting on this cushion, well, what's the position? So I'm sure you've seen it, all these different leg positions and everything. Well, what are they all called? So the most famous of them is called the Lotus position, and so that's generally what you see inside Buddha statues. For example, statues of the Buddha is inside a Lotus position, where you're having the feet on either of the thighs, on either leg, and you have the knees that are on the mat. And so this is a very, very perfect, if you will, position that you can actually be in. It actually very stable. It will keep you in a great position for your meditation. I can't do that, so that's a very difficult position for me, and I'm going to talk about some other ones as we continue. So you don't have to do that. And so remember, you don't want to be hurting yourself. Now, if you're wanting to work yourself up to that way, yeah, I think that's great. And again, if you're under the guidance of a teacher, that's even better. They can help you and give you some techniques and stuff like that. There's also the half lotus position. So basically you're not doing both feet on both thighs. You're just doing one. And there's also the Burmese position where you're not actually putting the feet on either thigh. So it's gradually getting a little bit easier depending on your body composition and how you actually feel. Now, the one that I actually like is a supported position, and you can see this like in Japanese Buddhism as well, especially Zen. So we're basically in this one. Just imagine you have your meditation cushion. You can actually flip it to make it a little bit taller, and you can kind of like, if you will, straddle it, just like sit on top of it, and your legs are coming down that way, almost like you're kneeling. You can also get, like what I have, it's going to be a larger meditation cushion that's designed for that. There's also little like almost like stools, if you will, that allow you to actually go in that position as well. So this is great for taller people, for people who are heavier. It's a more comfortable position, and it's perfectly fine as well. So you're on this meditation cushion, you're doing that position, right? Well, what are we trying to accomplish here? So there's 3 different things that we need to focus on with meditation. So we got our body, we have our mind, and our breath. So we're working on the body right now. We want to get our position right. So when we look at our body on the actual meditation cushion, we want to make sure it's perfectly straight. So imagine you had a stack of coins or quarters, right? And if they're perfectly stacked up straight, it's pretty stable. It's not going to sway away. It's not going to fall over, right? Now kind of move it around a little bit. Notice how easily it can actually just like fall over or just whatever. That's not what you want. So almost like you're holding them. You can actually sway your body, so you're centering your spine on the meditation cushion as well. You want to make sure it's nice and straight. You also, as far as your neck, you want to make sure that's straight as well. But you also don't want to have like your head looking straight ahead. Maybe down a little bit, maybe about like a 45-degree angle. You're not going to do anything extreme like this because you're not trying to fall asleep on the meditation mat. So you want to do it where it's comfortable. Your shoulders should be straight, but you want to have it where your chest is able to breathe either your lungs, you're breathing. This could be the next important part. So you don't want to be anywhere where it's too forward, like too back. You want to be relaxed in this particular position. So as we start settling in on our meditation cushion, as you kind of tell what we're doing here, we're making it where our body is not going to be a distraction to us in meditation. So you may want to sway around. You may want to just position yourself so when you're actually meditating, you no longer have to focus on keeping the body straight, or that you're worrying about different things going on with your body. You're trying to eliminate that as a particular concern. Now, as you start meditating, you're going to feel unusual sensations. Like it's, you're sitting basically in this one position, as you're doing other things we're going to talk about. And so you're going to feel things, and that's a natural human, behavior. Like for example, if you are sitting, at your office right now, well, maybe you have a scratch, so you're going to scratch, or you have a little muscle ache, so you're going to touch that, right? With meditation, we don't want to keep doing that or do that at all, because that's distracting us from what we're trying to actually accomplish. So as you settle your body, that's going to help a lot with that. That's also where you're kind of doing, if you will, almost like a scan of your body. You're relaxing your muscles, and you have to kind of, if you will, scan through your body to relax your muscles, because sometimes we're not even really aware of that. We really tense and not realize we're really tense with our muscles, especially with our face. We got a lot of muscles when it comes to our face, right? So make sure that you're relaxing everything, and you generally feel like, wow, I didn't realize I was really that tense. That includes your mouth, your lips, your around your eyes, everywhere when it comes to those little muscles. Your tongue is going to be up towards your palate, or right in front of you, or front teeth. That's the correct place to put it. That'll help with the breathing. So as we're kind of getting ready, we're kind of positioning ourselves where we're going to be able to sit on this meditation cushion or mat, or if you're on the chair, we're doing it so we're centering our body, right? So now we're going to focus kind of like on the breath. So as we're trying to get ready, one thing you may want to do is what we call purifying your breath. So, breathe in and then breathe out, right? But what we're doing, imagine it this way. you're kind of breathing in kind of like all this toxicity, if you will, all that three fires, three poisons, the greed, anger, delusion, right? Just imagine that you're, inhaling it, then you're exhaling out, whereas purified, you don't have that anymore, right? So very symbolic, if you will, in that way, but it's kind of getting you into the mindset of what we're trying to do here, because we're going to focus on the breath next. So as you're doing that, you're just kind of like cleaning out, if you will, the body of these poisons that are inside you, this toxicity that's really creating these outflows. Remember, greed, anger, delusions, creating these outflows, creating these karmic actions. We don't want that. So as we're trying to get our body relaxed, we're in the right position, we're kind of starting to work on the breathing. All right, let's go and move into the different types of concentration we can do. So the one that I'd like you to focus on is just going to be breathing meditation, a very, very common one for not just beginners, but even advanced practitioners. So remember, we're starting off at the gym, light weights, right? So there's many different variations of this, many different techniques. This is a very common one, and you may be going, okay, so maybe I've been practicing for months and I'm just still focusing on breathing. Yeah, if you think about this, like throughout our life and lifetimes, we are just so covered with delusion and ignorance that we don't really understand things. So we've been reinforcing this belief in self. What the Buddha said does not exist as permanent, unchanging, independent self. We believe exists, but doesn't really exist. So we've been reinforcing that. So having to try to control and tame your mind is a very difficult thing, because our mind is really, if you want to think about it this way, fighting back. It doesn't like that you're trying to take control. And so that's why you see sometimes, like in the 10 ox herding pictures, you got like a bull or an ox right there, and basically that's an analogy for a mind. We're trying to control that, and so eventually it goes away because you've tamed the mind. But right now we need to find the mind. Right? We haven't even found the mind yet. We think we know where the mind is. We think we know where these thoughts are coming from, but we don't really know anything yet. It's so much covered with delusion and ignorance. So we're trying to find the mind. Then we're trying to grapple with the mind and control the mind. We're trying to do all these techniques, but we might be in the very first part just trying to find the mind. So trying to settle our mind of these distractions, these thoughts, everything popping up is very, very important, because that samadhi is kind of like where we want to get to, right? And so this is part of it. It's because we want to try to get insight, get these flashes of wisdom we call prajna. And so as you get these flashes of wisdom through this insight, that will give you the faith to continue on. So it's a faith built upon what you're actually experiencing, understanding. You may not get there for several years, or you may just have like one throughout your entire, lifetime. But it's that important breakthrough is what we're trying to accomplish, and you can only do that by taming, settling, calming the mind. So focusing on the breath is very important. But how do we do that? So one of these different concentration methods is just imagine this way: the inside of your nostrils, you're going to be focusing there. Which sounds kind of weird, like, well, wait a minute, are we supposed to be focusing on the breath? Well, yes, but you're focusing, your attention is centered to the inside of your nostrils, because remember, that's where the air is coming in and out, right? So as we're breathing in, we are aware of the breath coming in, and then breathing out, we're aware of the breath coming out. And so this sounds extremely simple, but let's say you have a ragged breath or uneven breath, or maybe it's fine, right? We're not passing any judgments on the breath. We're just observing the breath, which sounds very simplistic, and it is, but guess what? Your mind doesn't like that. You're gonna go, this is boring, or maybe this other thought comes up because your mind's like, cool, I can go and distract them from what they're trying to do, which is tame me. Hey, do you remember that errand you're supposed to do, or what that person said about you? And then you go onto those coattails and just follow it down the path, and now you're no longer having that concentration. So we're focusing our mind on, we're giving our mind something to do, focusing on the inside of our nostrils as the breath comes in and out. So as we're breathing, we're just focusing on it, but we're giving our mind something to focus on. We're essentially tricking our mind, if you will, you want to think about it that way, by giving it something to focus on, because it wants to focus on something. But we're only just observing. We're just an observer. Just like you are some type of like doctor or medical researcher, you're observing a patient. That's the patient essentially is you, but you detach yourself from that, so you're just observing it, because otherwise you're going to associate. If that's you, you're like, wow, my breath is feeling this way, or I'm thinking this, and you're just going to go all over the place, right? You need to detach yourself from that self. So we're focusing on the breath. Don't worry if it's uneven, as I mentioned, or anything else. As you continue with your meditation practice, as you continue doing this, it will have a profound effect on your breath. So you're going to actually have your breathing improve through meditation, probably, as you continue on and on, depending on your teacher and your dedication towards this, not barring any type of medical conditions or anything else like that. But it should have a impact on your breath, your breathing, because now you're aware of, well, maybe I've been anxious, so my breath has been uneven that way. And so as you continue with your meditation practice, you're no longer maybe focusing on things that were causing that. So many little different interconnected parts there. So as we focus on your breathing, essentially, you're able to really settle this mind, because the mind has something to do, but it's so focused in a way, I still feel it's almost like tricking your mind, where you're focusing on the breath. It's giving it something to do, but it's not really allowing it to do anything else. You're starting to tame the mind. Now, as you begin, you're going to have parts where you are going to be distracted. Don't worry about that. Do not go, oh, I thought about this thought, or whatever came in, or this concern. Let it appear, because the mind's going to do this to you, and then let it drift away. Because if you really think about your thoughts that come up, they're really fleeting. If you really think about it, some may stay longer than others, but they're all kind of fleeting, right? So they have kind of like a beginning, a middle, and an end. They don't last this thought endlessly. We may think it does, but it comes and goes. So let that thought drift away. That's showing control. And you're going to have problems with this, or concerns with this initially, because you're going to follow that thought to the point where you just got to get up. That's okay. Don't worry about it. If you encounter something, you're like, I just can't continue meditating anymore. Okay, then don't meditate anymore. It's this constant practice that you're doing, just like at the gym. Maybe your body's like, we've been practicing, several times this week. I just can't do it anymore. My muscles, right? Okay, then give yourself a rest. But what we're trying to do is this consistency inside our practice. So maybe it does not have to be for an hour like you just threw yourself into. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You don't have to do these long, extensive sessions. And remember, Buddhist practice is not just sitting meditation. It's, that threefold training. So there's many, many things you can do. So as you're focusing, on the breath and you're settling the mind, this is where insight can kind of come in. Maybe there's a particular, let's say, teaching or concept, or a riddle we haven't to understand, where you're focusing on. Okay, yeah, that can be part of your meditation practice as you settle the mind. But again, if you're watching this, you're probably just starting off with meditation, and your key point here is to try to settle the mind, and that's going to be focusing on the breath, and that's going to be your practice as you continue. That's not going to go away, but as you get better and better and better, as you start training, if you will, think about it that way, this is where you can start focusing on trying to get that insight, so you can get that into wisdom, prajna. And so that is really where you're going to need a meditation teacher. You're going to need somebody, hopefully in person. And we also have many different ways nowadays, including online virtual with video, but in person is still the best way to do it, because you can't see everything through a computer. You can learn or do everything through a video like this one, or even just by reading a book. You can go very much down the wrong path. So make sure you really do that as you continue. So this is good you start off, but it's not going to be everything. Now, as you're meditating, let's say it's during the winter time or it's getting colder, yeah, you would definitely want to have kind of like a cloth or a blanket or something over your lower portion of your body, like your legs and your feet, because your circulation will not be as great as you go into these meditation positions, even when you're sitting. So that's another thing that you can also do. But so when you're getting up from meditation, some people may go, well, I'm just going to jump up and go do the dishes or do something else, right? No. The purpose of our meditation is to help us gain that insight, right, into wisdom. So what you want to do, reflect as you're ending your meditation session. Okay, what have I learned from this? Like, what was the purpose of this, right? Reflecting on the greed, anger, delusion that we want to get rid of, those toxins inside of us. And as you do that, maybe there's a particular prajna, wisdom that you gain from your sitting meditation. focus on that as well too. And this is another key point. Maybe you did have like this spark of wisdom come up, right? Like, oh, I understand this now. Ask a Buddhist monastic, like, this is what I understood during meditation. Is this right? Is this wrong? And let the ego down, the self down, because maybe they go, yeah, you got this one part here, that's great, but now you're kind of like on this other understanding of it here, which is not right. And that could be a blow to your ego, because maybe to yourself, you're like, oh, I figured this out on my own, just to be told, no, you really didn't. That's part of practice as well, because remember, your mind's still trying to keep you from getting rid of greed, anger, and delusion. So thank you, Venerable. Yeah, what can I do for a part of my practice in meditation? And is there a sutra that I can read, or something that can help me find the right wisdom? That's where your mindset wants to go. So don't worry that the ego is going to kind of go up, oh man, it's like a boost to your ego. You thought you gained something, but you really didn't. That's why we have this discussion inside Buddhism, and we also have teachers, our monastics, there for us. So as you're getting up for your Buddhist meditation, you're probably going to have, as far as lack of circulation, if you will, to some degree inside your legs. So, start to warm up your body. You may want to massage it, especially your face and everything. You want to make sure you just don't jump right up, right, after you've all been contemplating things. You may want to bow to the Buddha before you end, just like as you started your Buddhist meditation practice. You also want to go ahead and just, reflect that at the end as well, and put out your incense, put out the candle. You want to conclude your actual Buddhist practice. So just don't jump up. Use this as the opportunity, just like you're going to the gym. So at the gym, if you were just going to be lifting weights and all these exercises but not cool down, or not, stretch or anything to prevent injury, or to even reflect like, oh man, like when I was doing that one technique at this particular machine or these barbells, it hurt. Reflect on what actually hurt so you don't do that again. So not to punish yourself, but just so you gain on your practice, your technique. So just don't get up. Make sure you reflect upon that. Now, I did a very, very high level overview. There are many different Buddhist traditions and many different ways they focus on the concentration and meditative concentration portion of the Threefold Training. So don't go like, hey, this is it for all your traditions, or even specific to you. Again, you might have a medical condition or something where you just can't do all of this, right? If you can, find a Buddhist temple, even if that's during vacation or something like that, where you can go ahead and get under the guidance of somebody in person, along with other Dharma friends, other laypersons like yourself, also trying to learn meditation, is a great way to do it. I find it very beneficial as well. It doesn't matter how advanced practitioner you are or how well you think you understand it. That's a good way to do it, because they can help you, they can correct you, but they can also give you techniques and understanding that you may not even be aware of. So do you practice sitting meditation? I would love to hear from you in the comments below, including maybe some techniques that you're practicing or your particular tradition, and what you found actually beneficial or even challenging about sitting meditation. Thank you.